Hi there, and welcome to the Outcomes Over Hours show. I'm Tina Patterson, and I'm so excited about the executive who I have here with me today. So we have Wendy Mak here. Now, Wendy is the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer at Link Group. And Link Group is one of those amazing companies where they connect millions of people to their assets, whether that's their pension, their superannuation, investments, property. And Wendy has the responsibility as a global role that has responsibility of all things marketing, comms, brand, sustainability, CSR, as well as other things. The reason I really wanted Wendy, though, on the show today is, in addition to her very senior role, she also has a lot of things that she does outside the office, whether it's fashion blogging, and she's got an amazing website at wendymak.com, or passionate about her dog. So we might hear her dog barking in the background. And as I was saying before we started recording, that's part of life these days, and it's completely fine if it happens. So Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tina. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Well, I'd like to start off hearing a bit on the corporate side, the leadership side, and about your own leadership style. And particularly, I've seen so many people whose leadership styles have evolved, whether that's from before the pandemic, during the pandemic, afterwards. Can you share a little bit about your own leadership style and how it's changed over time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, over time, I probably started off having a real barrier between myself and my team, always wanting to keep it extremely professional and very much, I'm the leader and I've got to act the leader at all times. So you're really not showing any vulnerability. And I think the pandemic really taught us all that relationships are a lot more personal because we saw so much of each other's personal lives, and that meant that I also dropped a couple of barriers. So I think that my leadership style has become a lot more personal now. I, am very much I'm not too scared of showing my vulnerabilities and showing personal aspects of my life. Like you said, my dogs and my home and where I live, those were things that I probably wouldn't have ordinarily shared, but the pandemic really ripped that apart. And so now I'm just like, I'm in my kitchen. So yeah.
I love that. And I really resonate with what you said, because I think about how I led, and I was in a lucky position to lead hundreds of people when I was in my 20s. But like you said, I felt that I had to be really professional, and my professional work was my professional work, and my outside was my outside. Do you think that age has perhaps played a part in it? Or do you think that it's just, no, everyone through the pandemic had to have everyone in their homes? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's probably a mix of both. I think certainly the pandemic threw us all in that situation. So whether we liked it or not, no matter what age we were, we all had to be confronted by the fact that we had to invite almost all of our colleagues into our homes and to meet our families and pets and children, whether we wanted them to or not.
Yeah.
But then, yes, I do agree that age does bring a level of maturity. However, having said that, I think, for me, it was just really around having it wasn't so much age. I came into this role with a slightly different mindset to begin with. And that was, I was just there without any expectations as to where it was going to go. I didn't have any agenda for, I've got to get to this particular point, or I've got to achieve this level or title. I just wanted to come in. It was a challenging role. It was an interesting role. I wanted to do it well. And I didn't have, as I said, that long-term agenda. And I found that just really made me relax a little bit more as I approached everything. And that also probably helped a lot of, how it became a little bit more, how I let my guard down a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but the older I've got, the less I care about titles and things like that. That's so important when I was in my 20s. But now you go, it's just a label. Do you feel the same way, or how do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. I now just, what's really important to me is the people that I work with. I have to really enjoy them. I have to enjoy my team. I have to believe in the organization and where we're going. And those are the things that really matter now. And obviously, there's a sense of pride. You want to do your job well, but those are the things instead of the accolades of the titles, if you will.
Yeah, I love that purpose and the people you connect with. I'd love your thoughts then of, as we're working now, where so many of us are in a hybrid work environment of some sort, What do you say what do you think about when you think about the next decade or so? What are the 2 to 3 leadership skills that you believe that leaders need to be able to lead in our new normal, where we're not all in the office Monday to Friday and seeing each other all the time? What are the skills that you think that our leaders need?
Yeah, look, I think that's a really interesting question. I don't know if there's skills per se, but I think that there are certain things that you should and could be doing as leaders, or perhaps increasing the cadence of what you're doing to really try and or keep the teams together and keep that sort of momentum, even though we're not all full-time face-to-face in the office anymore. I think one of the first things is you've got to really learn how to check in on your team. I think we all used that term a lot during the pandemic. I don't know that we necessarily all did it well. I do think that, there's feedback from certain people that I've worked with that they felt that perhaps some of the check-ins were disingenuous, not my team, I'm just saying, overall, during the pandemic, as you talk to friends and peers, there was a little bit of that. So I think it's about learning how to check in with your team in a really genuine way. And I find that, first of all, one-on-one is a really good way of doing that, and not doing a cursory sort of at the start of a team call going, hey, you all going today, is everybody feeling okay? Like, it's actually taking that time out to have a one-on-one conversation and going, we're not actually talking about work today, I just want to have a 10-minute chat about what's going on in your life, and just make sure that you're feeling comfortable with where you're at, and what else can we do to support you. That's an uncomfortable conversation for people to have. So I think thinking about ways that you can facilitate that, and perhaps some of that might need more of a group setting, because some people would find the one-on-one conversation a bit intimidating. So you do have to sort of adjust your method and your style to check in with the individual that you're working with, or the team that you're working with. So if they're not comfortable as an individual one-on-one, you might want to do icebreakers in a team meeting to really start a conversation. So instead of just saying, how is everyone feeling, you might, we did something like this during the pandemic. We actually asked them to all throw up a photo of something that really mattered to them and talk about it. So it could be a photo of their last holiday, it could be a photo of their child, it could be a photo of their favorite meal, because that's how they were decompressing during the pandemic, by cooking. So it's that. I think that's one thing that I think we could do really well. The other thing is to, create that social community. Speaking of the cooking and the pets, we leaned into that, and we still do even after the pandemic. We've really found that that's the stuff that people are excited about. That's the stuff that they learned to enjoy during the pandemic. So post-pandemic, we've actually carried that through, and we've gone, submit photos of your pets, and we have cooking competitions, and we, and when we are back in the office, we've done things like we have what we call a scone off, where different people make different scones and I judge. It's a really, really very fun position to be in. Yeah, great. Love the team in that respect. And the third thing I think that we really have had to do a lot more of is shared calendars, because we're all sort of some are in, some are out. Depending on where you work, the cadence might not be the same. You might not all agree the same days. If you have an organization where you all are pretty structured and agree the same days, that's great. But, we're very flexible. So the shared calendars, and sort of being able to say, I'm going to be here on these days, so that people can tap into that and connect with you, or align and coordinate their schedules with yours to be able to see you. Those are the important things that we've really found.
Oh, Wendy, there's so much goodness in what you've just said. I think some of the key things that I hope listeners picked up was, one, around it shouldn't stop at the pandemic, the things that you were doing to connect in with each other. And these are things that just great high-performing teams do, of connecting in and letting people bring their whole selves to work. I love that shared calendars also there, because it gives the permission to people to say, I don't expect you to be in the office from these hours all the time. And it just brings that into the culture. And then the third thing that you said up front, which I really, really love, is around, as a leader, adapting to the team members versus expecting everyone to adapt to you. So looking to go, well, who is comfortable in a one-on-one situation versus a group, versus just everyone's got to do it my way, I'm the leader. And I think they're the sorts of things that people acknowledge, and then when they have that, they don't cut corners. They want to go the extra mile for their leaders, because they can see their leaders are also doing it for them. And I really, really love that.
Absolutely.
Switch gears a little bit. Do you have a morning ritual?
I actually am not a morning person. So I am trying to get better at that.
Can you share about that? Because a lot of people think I've got to be, you know, at my desk at, you know, 7, 8, 9, whatever time. So
no, generally, I think by now I'm very lucky to be in a team and an environment where, you know, my management also understand that I'm not a morning person. I am trying to get better at that though, Tina. So I am making an effort to try and get up a little bit earlier and do more because, you know, you read all the productivity books and apparently that's the best time of the day. So I am trying to get myself a little bit more organized in the morning, but I do have a ritual which, you know, works for me. And that is I wake up and the first thing that I do, I confess I am a little bit of a just check the phone. We work in a global organization, so we've got teams that are working overnight. So I just do a quick check, make sure that nothing's on fire, there are no emergencies. And then I get out of bed and the first thing I do is actually put on my exercise gear because I've learned over time that if I don't get straight into it, I will just put it off.
Yep.
I'm not someone that will do it at lunchtime. I won't revisit exercise in the evening or after dinner. I need to get it out of the way in the morning. I don't love it. And so that's something that I really just am quite disciplined about doing. And then I'll check my emails again. And so it's kind of like a bit of a patchwork morning where I'm bouncing between personal and professional. After I do a first round of check of emails, I'll take my dog for a walk. And then I'll come back, do one more round of emails and then and then I'll get ready for work and then I'll head into the office. So by the time I head into the office, it's probably a little bit later in the morning, but my whole team knows, you know, they know that I'm going to be online in the morning. They also know not to schedule anything before 9 if they want to get the best out of me. So
that is such a good example, though, of outcomes over hours in the office. And a lot of people feel that they need to be a morning person. And yes, a lot of the productivity books say that. My view, though, also is we're not all built to be morning people, as you've probably heard about. You've got the night owls, the morning larks, and the people in between. Yes. And so managing and being smart about when are you at your most energetic is actually a great focus, I think, from an outcomes over hours standpoint. So I think it's really good for people who also aren't morning people to hear that it doesn't all have to look the same how you do it, but thinking through your own energy levels is a really good thing to consider.
Yeah. And I think, you know, from my perspective, Tina, I just feel like so long as I'm available for the commitments that matter, so I'm not missing meetings that I need to be at, I'm not missing client commitments, I'm not missing deadlines, then it really is almost kind of slightly irrelevant, you know, whether I'm on at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. so long as I am available for the things that matter for my team when they need me. And then I think it's also, you know, something that we need to acknowledge of our own team. We need to, I can see in my own team, I know who are night owls. I know that I've got team members that, you know, I just don't even try to catch them before 10 a.m. in the morning, but I know that they'll be there at 9 at night. And so it's also acknowledging that there is different working styles within your own team and playing to that.
Yeah, fantastic. I'd love to pick up on something that you said, because it brings me back. I was doing one of my group coaching programs today with a corporate leadership team, large global company, and we're talking about global time zones, and a lot of these people were very senior and have global roles. What advice do you give to people who have got global roles about how they can manage through it when really you might have people who want you at all hours of the day and night?
I think you've just got to be really clear about your boundaries. And I think that's something that the pandemic definitely assisted all of us in being able to do that, because we sort of, you know, found it much more okay during COVID to say, actually, I've got to feed my child, or I've got to, you know, do something. And, you know, so that was an added bonus. But generally speaking, I would say you've just got to be really clear about the boundaries and go, I need an hour right now to sort something out in my personal life or to get dinner.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I'm going to be really hangry during the rest of my calls this evening, and you don't want that. So it's probably beneficial for all of us. So it's about being clear about the things that you need. And I do also think that, you know, one of the things that has really helped is, as I said, it's chunking up that day. So as you've probably gathered, I don't do my full day. Like I don't have one massive block of working hours and I don't have one massive block of personal time. So by having little mini blocks, I might be in the office, I might be at home in one mini block, I might be in the office for another mini block. And then I've got a little window where I'll try and get home so that I can actually be at home to do the night shift, what I call the night shift, with having a global team and working with a second time zone. So that I think also helps change the dynamic and make it a little bit easier when you sort of think about how you chop up your day, because you know you've got this other chunk of work that's coming up in the evening.
Absolutely. I love that labeling of mini blocks, and it's something that I do as well. I have a global role as well. And I think where people go, I work 9 to 5 and then my global responsibilities are in addition, that's one of the things that I want to break. And I think this concept of mini blocks is a great way to go, no, think about where, be it your team or your clients, customers, where they are and when they need you. And so it is okay in the middle of the day at 1 o'clock to go for a run or whatever it might be, based on whatever mini block you're doing and how you weave it in.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I'd love to know, what's the best, most practical advice you've ever been given about how to work smarter?
Oh, that's a really tough one, because there's lots of good advice out there. One that I probably adhere to most for myself is I like to get the small things off my plate. So if I've got a lot of stuff on, or if I've got a long to-do list, for me, I like to tick off the things that are going to take me just 5 minutes, get it out of the way. It's then mentally and also task-wise off my list. And I can move on to the bigger, meatier things that are going to take more of my time. The reason why I say that's really worked for me is because it's twofold. As I said, mentally, I know I've, been able to sort that out. It's not sitting there somewhere in the back of my mind. So, because that just kind of plays on you. You're trying to work on something that's pretty strategic or meaty or quite time consuming, but in the back of your mind, you're like, I've still got to sort out those, like 8 little niggly things. The other thing is it's kind to your colleagues, because oftentimes the little things that you might need to do have an impact on someone else in your organization who's waiting for you to maybe come back on an email, or who's waiting for a decision, or who's waiting for some feedback on something really simple. Your ability to be able to go back to those little things, if you know it's just going to take you less than 15 minutes, do it, because often the other person at the other end of the receiving line will then be able to get on with their day and get on with their jobs. And you're not then being that holder, you're not holding up the process.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I have some rapid fire questions. Are you game to answer them?
Oh, okay.
Okay. What is the best thing that you have bought over the past couple of years for less than $100?
Oh, less than $100. That is a real challenge for myself anyway. For a shopaholic, I was going to say, especially someone who went real crazy during pandemic with online shopping. I really have yet to break that habit, I must confess. I would probably say in this context, for less than $100, I bought one of those little productivity timers, which is essentially just like a souped up egg timer. And you can just, it's a digital face. I mean, you could probably get the same achievement through an egg timer, but it feels kind of a little bit more satisfying when you've got a nice big round face that's it, and that you can set. And I set it to 20 minutes or 30-minute blocks. And then I hit that little timer. And, going back to my earlier comment about mini chunks, that helps me chunk up my day. So I'm like, you've got 20 minutes to clean the house before you've got to get back to work. And whatever you can do in that 20 minutes is whatever you do.
I love it. The Pomodoro technique. It's wonderful. Okay, the next question. What is the book that you have either recommended or given the most to other people?
Oh, see, now that's a really interesting one. I'm not much of a reader because my day-to-day job involves me doing so much communications and reading and writing. That's, what I literally do day in, day out. I actually listen a lot more. So I haven't recommended a book. Yeah, the podcast for me is all where it's about. I bounce between things like there's a really cool podcast called Business Wars, which talks about arch rivals in terms of industries or brands, but it's just done in a really cute way. They've got little voice actors and it's just kind of fun. The other things that I really like are obviously Serial, which sort of gave birth to all of the other sort of, true crime podcasts. So I'm a big crime buff. And then I also like, just for something a little bit more lighthearted, something called Scamfluences, which talks about how some of the biggest scamsters have occurred over time, whether that's, celebrity influencers that were fake, or, people scamming women for money by pretending to be rich, a rich royal prince, that kind of thing. That's just really lighthearted for the end of the day. And obviously, Tina, I'll be recommending yours now too.
I was just thinking there's some great podcasts I've got now for my next time I'm on a run or a walk. So I love that. 2 more questions. What's the most fearless thing you've done in the last decade or so?
Last decade or so, gosh. Probably taking a punt and taking a role about 7 years ago where I took on the role of Chief Product Officer. It was in terms of digital solutions, and it was in the technology and innovation space. And that is something that I don't have any background in. I had a great CEO that gave me a lot of trust and faith that I could do the role. And it was really terrifying at the time, because I was like, I am out of my depth, and I'm not speaking the same language as these techie people around me. But that is something that I do not regret for a second doing.
Oh, I love that so much. And finally, Wendy, what does outcomes over hours mean to you?
I think it means, you're fulfilling something that means a lot to you, rather than just whiling away time for the sake of being able to say you've expended an amount of time doing something. But instead, it's about actually being able to step back at the end of it and go, that thing that I did really mattered, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, what a perfect way to finish. Wendy, it has been an absolute pleasure. And if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. Look me up on LinkedIn. It's Wendy Mak, or as you said, they can also jump onto my website, wendymak.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you, Tina.